Welcome to the Library of Dreams, where every story begins with a dream and ends in a world you won't want to leave. The Library of Dreams is a place where anything imagined can become real, even if just for a moment. The Trial of Flame and Venom. I stood at the edge of the first platform, torchlight flickering off the sweat on my brow. The cavern opened up around me like the throat of a sleeping god. Stalactites hung from the ceiling like teeth, jagged and waiting. Below, the ravine roared with wind and the whisper of shifting stones, a rocky grave for those who failed. The rope bridge swayed in front of me. Not just a bridge, an obstacle course of swinging ropes, narrow planks, and knotted cords stretching 40 feet across the chasm. Beyond it, the second platform and the fire. The purification flame. They say the purification flame doesn't burn the body. It scorches the soul, strips it bare, scrapes away everything false until only truth remains. That's if you make it that far. Most don't. I wasn't the first cadet to attempt the trial today. The first, a boy from the Eastern Quarter with fire in his eyes, had slipped before the halfway mark. His scream had echoed off the cavern walls until it dissolved into a sickening crunch far below, swallowed by the rocks and the silence that followed. The second, God's the second, fell like a rag doll. No scream, no sound, just the flailing shape of him vanishing into the mist of the ravine, as if he'd never existed. The venom ceremony hadn't even begun yet. That came after period, if your body could handle the crossing and your soul could survive the fire. I tightened the leather braces at my forearms. The motion was familiar, grounding. My hands were trembling, not from fear, at least not fear alone, but from pressure. Centuries of legacy hung over me like the weight of a dragon's breath. I whispered the vow that had been etched into my memory the moment I stepped into the Dragon Temple as a child, still covered in soot from the mines. We rise through trial. We burn to be reborn. We drink death to be chosen. The wind picked up, curling through the cavern like a living thing. It carried the scent of sulfur and old stone. Ash drifted down like black snow. Torchlight flickered across the cavern walls, illuminating ancient carvings. Scenes of dragons descending upon kneeling cadets, their wings like storm clouds, their eyes filled with judgment. Before me, the obstacle course trembled in anticipation. A narrow rope bridge stretched between two 30-foot-high stone platforms, suspended over a chasm carved by time and fire. The bottom was jagged rock and spiked stone, like the maw of some forgotten beast. I stepped onto the first rope. It immediately sagged under my weight, groaning like something alive. My stomach tightened, the muscles in my legs clenching. I spread my arms for balance the way they taught us. Soft knees, focused breath. My boots wobbled on the wooden planks that dangled at odd intervals. Below, the darkness pulsed, alive with the memories of the fallen. I fixed my eyes on the second platform. There, at its center, burned the silver brazier, the purification flame. It didn't emit heat, only light, faint, ghostly, and unwavering. It shimmered with a cold intensity that pricked the edges of my vision, making the hairs on my arms stand straight. It called to me. It dared me. The beam beneath my feet swayed violently. I dropped into a crouch and gripped the rope, forcing stillness into my limbs. One breath, then another. I pushed forward. The second obstacle was a series of hanging vines, thick ropes slick with condensation and ash. I leapt, grasping one, swinging forward. The next was just out of reach. I kicked off the air, missed, and barely caught the third with my fingertips. The fibers burned into my palms. My grip nearly failed, but I wrapped a leg around the line and held on. My heart thundered. Below me, the ravine exhaled. Warm, damp wind kissed my neck like a warning. I dropped onto the final stretch, a mesh of knotted cords sagging like a net over the chasm. Every movement made it shudder. I crawled across it, teeth clenched, until only one jump remained. One final leap. I ran 3 steps, launched into the void, and landed hard. My boot struck stone, my knee buckled, and I collapsed onto the second platform, coughing, chest heaving from the rising heat that came from nowhere and everywhere at once. The priestess was waiting. She stood near the brazier, her body cloaked in layers of black silk that shifted like smoke around her. Her face was hidden, except for her mouth. Lips pale as ash, still as stone. The firelight danced up from below, casting hollow shadows across her veil. "You crossed," she said. Her voice was neither kind nor cruel. It was final. "You may burn." I stepped forward toward the flame. My skin bristled as I neared it, though it offered no warmth, only weight, like walking into memory. I entered the circle. At first there was only a flicker. Then the fire surged, surrounding me without touching. The world outside blurred. My breath caught. And then the flame began its work. It didn't scorch. It surged, my chest constricted as the heat burrowed into my spirit. I saw my past spilled open before me, my mother's face, weary and lined with disappointment. My father's voice, sharp and distant. The shame of failure. The bitterness of ambition. Then deeper. My own hands, bloodied from a fight I'd started but hadn't finished. A moment I had buried. Regret so old it had turned brittle. Fear so deep it whispered in my bones. The fire pulled it all to the surface. I screamed. I didn't remember falling, but I found myself kneeling, trembling, bathed in sweat. The flame dimmed. It had seen everything and spared me. I stood, unsteady, but standing. The priestess stepped aside to reveal the altar, black stone etched with runes, and at its center, a vial. Dragon venom. Thick, shimmering, harvested from the sleeping worms in the deep tunnels. Their breath could melt steel. Their venom was worse. I lifted the vial. It was warm in my hand, pulsing faintly. The liquid inside swirled like molten gold laced with shadows. I uncorked it. The scent hit first, sharp as lightning, metallic and alive. I gagged, but didn't pause. I drank. The venom burned the moment it touched my tongue. It seared down my throat, through my chest, into my veins like wildfire. I fell to the stone, convulsing, the world flashing white and red and black. It felt like dying. It was dying. Then silence. The priestess leaned close. Her words slid into the space behind my eyes. "If you live," she whispered, "they may come." I awoke on a ledge, higher up the volcano, far higher. The air was thin, sharp, edged like glass. My limbs ached as though I'd been dragged across stone. Maybe I had. I didn't remember climbing, but I knew where I was. The Reach. Only those who survived the venom trial were brought here. No one ever explained how. You simply woke up, transformed, or not at all. The wind howled louder now, funneling up from the throat of the volcano, carrying with it ash and sparks. It whipped my hair around my face and pulled tears from my eyes. The sky above churned with stormfire, gold, crimson, violet, deep void black, roiling like the inside of a god's eye. Ash fell like snowflakes. Gentle, beautiful, deadly. I stood and walked to the edge. There were no guards, no priests, no warnings. Just the ledge, the sky, and whatever came next. You do not summon a dragon. You survive, you suffer, you change, and if they deem you worthy, you wait. I didn't know how long I stood there. Minutes, hours, time didn't move the same in the reach. I could hear my heart echoing in my ribcage like a war drum, or maybe a countdown. Then, a roar split the sky. It cracked across the clouds like a jagged bolt of black lightning. My ears rang. My chest vibrated with it. The very stones beneath my boots shuddered, as if remembering something ancient and powerful. Then she appeared. Wings, enormous, endless, unfolding from the smoke as though born of it. Obsidian scales the size of shields caught the dim light and shimmered with undertones of amethyst and blue flame. Her horns swept back like polished bone, spiraling into points sharp enough to rend reality. Her eyes, gods, her eyes were twin volcanoes, lava under ice, ancient beyond reckoning. The matriarch. Whispers in the temple called her the Silent One, the Watcher above, the first flame. She had witnessed every generation of cadets, seen thousands rise and more fall. But she had never chosen, not once, not in centuries, until now. She circled me once, her massive form blotting out stars. I didn't move. Again, tighter this time. The wind from her wings pushed me back a step, and then, on the third pass, she dove. I didn't flinch. Her wings snapped wide, stopping her descent in a gust of ash and cinders. She hovered for a breath that felt like eternity, then descended in silence, claws brushing the stone before folding her body low. And then she bowed. Her long neck arched forward, massive head lowering until her snout hovered just above mine. The heat radiating from her was immense. Alive. She smelled of smoke, minerals, wild storms, and something older, like the dust of the world before this one. I dropped to my knees. Not from fear, from awe, from the pressure of something vast entering the edges of my mind, like a glacier sliding into the ocean of my thoughts. Her forehead touched mine, and the world exploded. I was no longer on the ledge. I was flying. No, we were flying through time and memory, fire, battle, birth, loss, endless skies, caverns deep enough to hear the heartbeat of the earth. I saw her first flight, her first wound, her first grief. I felt her age like roots digging through mountains. Her voice didn't speak. It thundered through my bones. "You are mine," I gasped. Every emotion I'd buried rose at once. Terror, joy, grief, love. And all of it was consumed by her flame. She did not burn me. She claimed me. Thoughts bled together. I saw myself through her eyes, small, flickering, but stubborn. I felt her judgment, cold and total. Then her acceptance. And finally, her pride. A name formed in my mouth, not mine, not hers, but something new. The name of our bond, a name only we knew. I couldn't speak it. It wasn't for anyone else. She pressed her forehead harder to mine, and I understood. We were not two beings anymore, not rider and beast. We were one. The dragon within me roared. I threw my head back and screamed, not in pain this time, but in becoming. Flames erupted in a circle around us. The ash caught fire. The clouds split. Somewhere far below, the others would see it and know. The matriarch had chosen. And I, no longer merely cadet, no longer only human, I had been reborn. There are other temples. Temples of sirens, where the chosen drown and return. Temples of witches, where spells brand your skin. Temples of paladins, where vows are etched in blood, but only in the dragon temple. Do you burn, bleed, and rise again? Only here do you become fire.